Friday, November 13th, 2020, Maneco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So today we're going to look at the American Revolution or the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And I highly recommend a documentary I've been watching for the last few days. And why the last few days, if it's such a great documentary? Well, because it's almost 5 hours long. It's free on Amazon Prime if you subscribe to Amazon Prime. It's entitled War for a New Nation, an epic look at America's war for independence. How do they create the new nation? I've always loved history, yes, and I've always found American history very interesting. In high school in Brazil, I went to the American High School of Rio. I learned a lot about the Revolution, War of Independence, or War for Independence. At university as well, I took some U.S. history courses. So I'm always very interested, and I found this documentary really great. It shows that it wasn't really just black and white. There was a lot of hardship. The war took 8 years, and people switched sides all the time. And in the beginning, it was more for a war to try to get back some rights of Englishmen, as they called the colonists. They considered themselves British Americans. The documentary even says that the famous saying about the British are coming at Lexington and Concord was actually the reservists are coming, because people in the colonies considered themselves British. But it led, of course, to the creation of the United States of America, united, not in capitals, of course. And I find it amazing that not just in the United States, but even here in the United Kingdom and other countries in the world, we are succumbing to a bunch of technocrats who are not duly elected by the people in each of those countries to run the way we live, to run our lives with this so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution. And I think we need to try to keep exposing these people. So first I'm going to read the Declaration of Independence. And of course, it was written by Thomas Jefferson. Yes, he did own slaves. I think the documentary says about a third of the founding fathers did own slaves. But yeah, things are not perfect. Eventually, those slaves were freed. It took another war for that to happen. It took also the civil rights movement to really give people equal rights. But if anything, it went the right way. It didn't enslave people even more, right? And that's why all the other nations in the world, a lot of them, their constitutions, their principles and ideals are very similar to the American ideal. It's not just about the United States, it's about humanity. So let's go through the Declaration of Independence and then go through the Fourth Industrial Revolution to see the difference. In Congress, July 4th, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 united, that's not in capital, the United States of America, when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. In the documentary, they say that the founders, when they were in Congress, it was very hot in the summer, and they didn't think this was very important, and no one wanted to write it, so they gave it to the youngest delegate, almost the youngest, which was Thomas Jefferson. And it does say that he used other philosophers like John Locke and their ideas to write this. So this is not just Thomas Jefferson's thinking or ideas. So let's go through this first part of the Declaration of Independence. And I think it's really significant. Yes, and I know it was written by someone who owned slaves, but it was the first step to making America and even the rest of the world as free as we are today. So we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. There you go, Mr. Schwab. That's what it's all about. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these bonds, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it. So there you go. We're not governed, be it in the United States, be it in the United Kingdom, be it in Italy, be it in France, be it in Canada, be it in Australia, by the technocrats who meet in secret in Davos or wherever else they plan to meet next year in Switzerland. Yes, if the Swiss people want to be run by the World Economic Forum, they may choose to, but I highly doubt it as well that the Swiss would want to be ruled by these people. So now let's look at the fourth industrial revolution created by Klaus Schwab, who thinks he's a modern day founding father, right? So it says the fourth industrial revolution, what it means, how to respond. We stand on the brink of a technological revolution that will fundamentally alter the way we live, work, and relate to one another. Who is he to tell people how they should live, work, and relate to one another? It's up to the individual to decide that. In its scale, scope, and complexity, the transformation will be unlike anything humankind has experienced before. We do not yet know just how it will unfold, but one thing is clear: the response to it must be integrated and comprehensive, involving all stakeholders of global polity, from the public and private sectors to academia and civil society. Yeah, just the people in the know, the technocrats, the people at the United Nations and other global institutions. And that's why the United States didn't want to go into the League of Nations after World War I, because they knew that having a global institution like that meant the loss of U.S. sovereignty. Unfortunately, the United States went into the United Nations, which is, of course, bankrolled by the bankers and the technocrats. The Rockefellers, of course, gave $8 million in 1945 or 46 to build the UN headquarters in New York. So yeah, that's what we're looking at here. So anyone who is pushing for this fourth industrial revolution, who's pushing for lockdowns, who's pushing for all these draconian laws or rules for a virus, which people have a 99.6 or even 9% chance of surviving, they are the Benedict Arnolds of the 21st century, not only for the United States, but for every nation out there that wants to be free and independent and governed by the consent of the governed, right? Where people choose their own governments and they're not ruled by a bunch of technocrats somewhere in Switzerland. And I'm not having a go at the Swiss. Unfortunately, these people choose Switzerland to operate from. That just goes to show how Switzerland is a tolerant country, but they should maybe look a little closer who they allow to be in Switzerland. They've got the UN there as well. So yeah, there you go. It's an easy choice for me, but only because I've done my homework, I've learned from history, and I know where these people are coming from at the World Economic Forum. I wrote an article back in June entitled "The Origins of the World Economic Forum Go Back to the Third Reich in Germany." Yes, it does. And it's on my blog, maneco64.net blog. I don't write too much for that blog, for my blog, but I do write a few things. I'll put a link to that article below in the description. And you'll see that the people behind the World Economic Forum, or as it was called then, the European Management Forum, yeah, if some Europeans want to buy into this, that's fine, but it shouldn't be for the United States or for the United Kingdom or for Brazil, Australia. Yeah, and I would say that European nations would also most probably, or most definitely actually be against this. You see the kind of people that were involved in the beginning of this European Management Forum, the precursor to the World Economic Forum. You've got people like Otto von Habsburg, who was the son of the emperor of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the last emperor. You've got a guy who was managing director of Deutsche Bank during World War II, involved, Hermann Abs. You've got an Italian guy who was one of the founders of the Italian Communist Party. Yes, and it's evolved into a world technocratic, banker-led forum that's trying to really impose a revolution, a fourth industrial revolution into the world. And they're using this crisis that we've had in 2020 as an excuse to impose their will. And you've got people very high up who are backing this. And I think people need to wake up. I'd rather have the American Revolution rather than the fourth industrial revolution. There you go. So with that, we're going to look at where the markets are this morning. It's 8:37 a.m. London time. We saw the stock market come off yesterday. There's talk that a lot of the states in the U.S. Want to impose lockdowns. We'll have to see. The political situation, of course, is still uncertain. As the old saying goes, it ain't over till it's over, right? So let's see where we are. Spot gold, 1880, up $4. So gold held really well yesterday. The high so far overnight and this morning has been 1882, the low 1873. Silver is only up 5 cents, about 0.2% like gold. We want to see that outperform though, right? We're at 24.31. High's been 24.40, low 24.14. The Dow futures up slightly this morning. It's up 0.5% or 140 points at 29,220. The S&P is up just under 0.2%. The Nasdaq 100 future also up 0.2%. The FTSE is down 0.2% at 63.04. Sterling slightly higher this morning, up 0.3%. It has been dropping back in the last few days. We're at 131.62. The euro is up 0.1% at 118.18. The dollar is unchanged versus the yen at 105.10, and the dollar is down slightly versus the yuan at 661. The price of WTI crude is down 1% at 40.89. To finish off the 10-year yield, we saw a big drop in yields yesterday, which means that investors bought treasuries because they are uncertain about things, the markets and the economy. So we dropped back below 0.9. We're now at 0.88, unchanged. But yeah, the previous day it had gotten up to almost 1%. So there you go. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Please share it far and wide. Think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't yet. And you can also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Parler, and all these other platforms below. I wish you all a great day. Take care. Bye.